you go. I'm going to hand out other microphones. So as I get the microphones for each of them, why don't you, and I'm going to sit down in just a second as well. You can hand the mic down, but why don't you introduce yourself and introduce who you're here with today?
My name's Kevin Hamblin. I'm here with my wife, Maria, my mom, Sharon, and my boys, which should be here, if not momentarily.
My name's Aidon Lin. I'm here with my wife, Megan. She's over there. She was playing piano, and it was also her birthday today. Woohoo! And I have my mother-in-law, Wendy, and my father-in-law, Ken, and Megan's grandparents, the Clems. So they're all here. Oh, and my son, Jedediah's and the kids over there.
Cool. My name is Cedric Polk. I'm here with my wife, Tiffany, and my baby kids, which are back there and somewhere else. But nice to meet you.
Good. Well, these are men who are part of our church. They've been part of the church since day one. They're some of the amazing men that we have here at the church, dads. And I invited them and asked them to be part of this panel. So we're going to have a good time. Hopefully we'll laugh. Hopefully you'll laugh. But we're also going to share just some knowledge that has been passed on to us, and our dads, our spiritual fathers, that we want to share here today. I promise we'll be out of here by like 1 o'clock, so we're totally good. But we're going to have a good time. So you all introduce yourself. You guys don't know, I'm Pastor Josh. I'm here obviously with my wife, Elizabeth. We have 5 kids. 4 of them are here. One of he has a baseball game today, and this is his last baseball game here until the fall. But we're glad to be here. Just to loosen things up and lighten things up for them, does somebody want to start off with your best dad joke?
Dad joke?
Or joke?
Well, it's funny you should ask because since I shaved my head, people asked me if I still own a comb. And I said, well, of course I do, because I just can't seem to part with it.
There you go. Very good. Very good.
All right, I got a football one because I love football.
Good.
Why should you not wear sunglasses while playing football? It's a contact sport.
There you go. Very good. Yes.
All right, you want one more then?
Yeah.
All right.
Save it for later.
Okay.
We'll need it again later. So, Cedric, if you want to share one, you're welcome to.
Sure, why not? What do you call an alligator in a vest? Investigator.
There you go. Yeah. So I always get Arabella to roll her eyes because I tell her, I said, every dad has at least one good dad joke. It's their unicorny joke. And she just rolls her eyes at me like, because we're dads. We have our go-tos, right? So, yeah. So thank you. I love it. We'll if you have more, we'll probably take another chance to throw out a few more. So, because I like to laugh. I love hearing the jokes. But really, obviously the heart. I like to have it lighthearted, but the heart here is also to impart that wisdom, like I said. So I basically asked them, they each have a few different thoughts that are all separate, and we're going to get to see how God weaves it here together today. So that's going to be a fun thing to do. Of 3 of probably the most important things that they learned from their dad or spiritual father. So we're going to start to just dive into that. And Cedric, I'm going to let you go first and share just one of those thoughts. Or do you not want to?
I'm good.
So why don't you share one thought, and then we'll just kind of go from here.
The first one, it would be my dad taught me how to work hard. He worked hard all his life, and he always say, work for what you want. Then my mom would say, if you don't work, you don't eat. As you can see, I love to eat. So we didn't have a problem with that.
Work hard. That's really a powerful one. And it's an example. It's an example thing, right? So excellent. Kevin, do you have one you want to share?
Yeah. One thing my dad taught me, kind of dovetailing off of what Cedric said about working hard, he said it doesn't matter what you end up being in life or what you want to be. He said, but just do your best at it. And he used to say, if you end up being a ditch digger, be the best ditch digger you can be. And that always stuck with me. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. One of the things my dad taught me is he was always present in my life. I know a lot of people aren't as lucky to have their dads, present. My dad worked really hard. He was working for LAPD in California, so there would be, I stayed home with my mom. I was homeschooled for a long time, and to support us, my dad would work overtime, so there would be days where I didn't see him for a couple days because he was working overtime, or he'd come home really early in the morning, like probably around 6 or 7. He'd sleep for 2 or 3 hours, then go back to work. And so, but he never missed any of my sports games. He was always there, always present. And when he was not working, he was tired, but still he'd play. I'm like 4 years old. Play with me action figures. As I'm getting older, he'd play basketball with me, do lots of stuff. And so, that's definitely something that I hope to bring to my son.
Yeah, so I'm going to tie in on all of these thoughts because and something that I'll share with young dads especially, but the value of hard work cannot be understated, right? So that example is so pivotal. But I also tell young dads, don't sacrifice your young family for finances or for money by continuously working. So set a limit, set a boundary on it, because you can't have that time back. So how your dad, he'd take the overtime, but then he'd show up at the games. Those things are so powerful for us. As men, we want to provide for our family. We want to set that example for our kids, and we need to. But we also need to be there, right? So there's always time as you grow older to work more. Most jobs, most work, there's always more work to be done, right? There's always overtime you can grab, and there might be seasons you need to do it, but let it be a season. Don't let it be a season that becomes permanent. Regarding the hard work, my dad he taught it kind of this way, and I'm going to use sports analogies because my dad was my baseball coach for years, and you guys know I love sports. We could talk sports a long time, but the word that he would use when we were playing baseball is hustle. Don't walk to your position, hustle. You be the first one. You jog, or at least run or jog. Look like you're moving there with an intent to do something about it. That was one of the things that he really pounded into us on the work ethic. He told me in the story that's passed on is his mom's dad, so my great-grandfather, who actually grew up here in Madill, Oklahoma area, and then they moved to California, but he worked for a lawnmower company called Trimmer Lawnmower Company. And my great-grandpa, my granddad, would get to work every morning. So part of his hard work is he'd get there early before everybody else, and he'd stay there after everyone else. And he would sort the nuts and the bolts into their proper containers, which if you look at my workbench at home, they ain't sorted. So that's a tedious task, but he would do that. He would work hard, and he did that for years and years and years and years. And finally, my granddad's name was James, but finally his boss, as my granddad was winding near retiring, his boss came to him and said, "Hey, Jimmy," because that's what they'd call him, "Jimmy, I want you, how's your house doing? How much do you have left on your house?" And my granddad didn't think much of it. "I don't know." He said, bring in your next statement. I want to see it. And so my granddad brought that in Trimmer Lawnmower Company. They literally paid off his house for him because of that hard work, that dedication he put in. He'd just arrive early, and he'd stay a few minutes later than everybody else, but take care of his responsibility. He would hustle. He'd work hard. And my granddad, his education level was probably a third-grade education level at that time because he couldn't continue in school at that time. He had to drop out and take care of his family. So he spent years and years working, but he taught us how to hustle. So hard work, hustle, all of those, right? Good. Who wants to give a second thought or a second point?
So a second point, what you were saying in my house. So my story is a little bit different. When I turned 16, I met Mark, Clay, Bobby Sr., Bobby Jr., and they taught me not only just to work, but you have to have a work-life balance that I didn't see in my house. So you can always be present, you can always provide, but you have to be there for your family. So there's a community in your family to be make sure you're on one accord with your kids. because your kids remember those days. I remember those days, which I wish my dad would play football with me. He wasn't there. Had the neighbors playing football with me, grown-ups playing football. So it's being present in the house, doing stuff with your kids. And then the other point is, I might not have all the answers, but it's okay. Life is experience. If you don't go through experiences, you'll never find the answers. So you have to go through with your kids. You have to be there for them, not just financially, but be there not their friends, but kind of coach them. They might not do the right thing. They might not take out the trash when they're supposed to, but it's okay. You still guide them, give them their foundation. So while you give them the foundation, enjoy life with them as they grow older, because they'll never forget it.
Yeah, kind of tied into that. I think Elizabeth might have mentioned it, but really about 10 minutes is 10 minutes of one-on-one attention to a kid in a day makes a huge difference. So, but you have to be there. Even for adults, I know I got a shared something, but that basically said, even for adults, when we're going through hard things, sometimes just a 8 to 10 minute phone call with somebody who you love and trust, or a conversation with them, is enough for us to kind of snap out of a slump per se, or the whatever fog that we're in. So it doesn't take long to but being present and being fully present makes that huge difference. Yeah. Who wants to share something else?
Well, again, I'm just standing on the shoulders of Cedric here, kind of dovetailing on what he said when sharing knowledge with the kids, and I think he'd mentioned wisdom. There's a difference there between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing something. Wisdom being the application of that knowledge. And I probably saw it on a bumper sticker or a coffee cup. But knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put that in a fruitcake. So.
I like it. Good.
I think one of the other things my dad really instilled in me is never to quit. He would always tell me, I am not raising a quitter. And so you're not allowed to quit. So I used to do gymnastics. I was probably in between 8 and 10 or so. I was on the team. And I don't want to mention any names, but his name was Patrick Cooper. So he was a bit of a bully.
We'll tag him. We'll tag him when we post this.
Find him on Facebook or Instagram.
Just kidding. Just kidding, Patrick.
Just kidding. But yeah, he would, we'd be in line waiting for our turn in gymnastics, and my coach would be doing something else and not watching, and he'd say things to me, and he'd cut in front of me, and I mean, you're 8 years old, that's a big deal, because you all know the rule: no cuts, no butts, no coconuts, right? So there's no cutting allowed, okay? So that really hurt my feelings, and this would go on a lot, and I'd go home and cry about it, and it was midway through the season, and I would tell my dad, and he would just say, you're not allowed to quit, and you've already made a commitment to this team. If you don't want to play, or if you don't want to be a part of it after the season's over, you don't have to, but you're not allowed to quit, and you got to see it through. And so that's something that I take with me, and my brain doesn't allow me to quit when things get hard, and I hope that I can teach that to my son. So always following through with our commitments. Yes means yes. We serve a God who sees things through to completion, and so we should too.
Yeah, that's. I think our dads went to a lot of the same school. So, but I echo that. That was one of the things that I was taught often is we don't quit. Almost the same type of thing is if we make a commitment to a team, we're part of that team until that season's done, and then we can evaluate it. But whatever we do, we're gonna give it our best. We're gonna give it our best with a good attitude. Just because it's hard or difficult, doesn't mean that we stop. But yeah. Now the flip side of it is, I know especially now, I know bullying's a bigger issue. Parents, listen, if your kids are saying, hey, this is happening, help step in and help protect them, right? So, and I'm sure your dad helped and probably taught you some, talk through some different things, yeah. So, but it is also, we're gonna finish this. I will come in and I'll help protect you since, and I'll make sure that they're aware of what's going on. So that, absolutely do that as a parent. But then don't rescue is probably a different way of saying it. You can't just rescue from every problem that they have. I know we want to, and some of these problems and challenges become character building. So the character building side on this one was, we're not going to quit. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to quit. And that sticks. So the same thing was taught to me: don't quit, don't quit. Who else has been taught the don't quit, rule? Yeah, good. So good. Who wants to go next? Or who has a
Well,
joke?
something. Oh, a joke.
I threw a little curveball.
Yeah, that was a little curveball.
Yeah. You were ready.
Switching gears.
I have a joke, but it's not really a dad joke. It's more of a church joke.
It'll work.
Okay.
It'll work.
Well, three guys are walking away from three friends. It's an attorney, a doctor, and a pastor. And they're leaving their friend's funeral. Their friend was very wealthy and had given them all each $1 million under the agreement that when he passed away, they put that money in his casket with him. He thought he could take it with him. So as they're walking away, the doctor says, I only put half the money in there because we're building a new wing on the hospital, and I really need it, and I know he can't take it with him, so I only put half the money in there. The pastor says, well, I put about 3/4 of it in there because we're helping renovate our church, so I know he can't take it with him, so I, put 1/4 of it back. The attorney is just aghast. And he says, I cannot believe you guys. We all had an agreement. I will have you know that I put a check in there for the full amount.
That's so good. It's a good joke. It's a good joke. I like it.
All right, I got one for the kids.
Yeah.
Who do you call when you stub your toe? The tow truck.
Eye rolls are as good as laughter. It's so the one Arabella, and I'm going to steal her joke, but the one she likes to share is, I had a dream that I was swimming in an orange ocean, but I realized it was just a fantasy. So yeah, that's Arabella's. So I gave one of mine and I took hers. So she's laughing at her own joke. Now she gets why I laugh at my own jokes as well. So
Arabella, that was a good one.
it's a good one. That's one of her favorite ones. So good. Who wants to share another nugget of knowledge?
Another nugget of knowledge would be is have a plan. Sometimes you may have a plan. It might not go as well, but at least you have that foundation of that plan. Even though things fail, still keep going. Don't quit. Keep moving. I had a Bobby Sr. when I was like 20, 19. He sat me down. He said, son, what's your plan? I looked at him like, what do you mean, what's my plan? Because nobody never sat me down before. And he looked in my eyes. I was like, well, I need to go to school. You're right, you need to go to school. That's a good plan. That's a good plan. And sometimes when you plan something like that, it might not go as well, but you always plan and have a plan B, because you might want to do that, but God might call you to do something else. So even with the kids, I always have a plan. What are you going to do when you get older? Because you have to leave the house. You can't stay till you're 40. But what is your plan? Start gearing now, especially when they get to middle school, high school. Hey, what's your plan? You want to go to the military? You want to go to school? Where do you want to go? But you have to go.
Jacob, I don't think he was telling you, but he might have been telling you. So Asher,
You have to go.
that was for you. So you've heard the phrase, if you aim for nothing, you're bound to hit it, right? Maybe you haven't heard the phrase, if you aim for nothing, you're bound to hit it, right? I like that. Yeah, so have a plan. I like that. Have a plan. So if you don't have a plan, you're aiming for nothing and you're bound to hit it, then you're bound to wonder, how did I get here? It's because you didn't have a plan. But if you have a plan, now you have a direction which you want to go and head towards. The classic verse, if you want to think of having a plan, God has a plan for you, right? Jeremiah 29:11 is a classic verse on that. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. God told this to the Israelites in the midst of exile. They were where they didn't want to be, but he still had a plan for them. And you know, God has a plan for you. He has a plan for each of your lives. If you aren't sure what it is, seek him, because his plan, it says in Romans, I believe, it's a good, when we pursue his good, pleasing, and perfect will, we step into that plan of his for our life. And he might not just be like, this is the plan. He might give you bits and pieces of it. But, you know, I'd ask him about it. Have a plan and start to take those steps towards it. Don't just wait for the plan, for somebody else's plan to happen to you. Right, because that is what will happen if you don't have a plan for yourself. So, who else? Who's next?
You know, when you and Adon were talking about, I guess, how can I explain it? You know, kind of following through. I thought of Noah when God approached him and told him to build the ark. He kept going, and kind of like having a plan, he started building it. And if you notice, Noah doesn't talk at all. He doesn't say one word through that whole thing. The first time you see Noah speak is after the flood. God told him what to do, and he's silent and just does it. It's just, and then Noah did this, and Noah did this. There is no Noah said. It's Noah did, Noah did, Noah did, until God, you know, changed it. So once you've got that from the Lord, you stick with it until he tells you otherwise.
Yeah, it's really, really good. You have anything?
Yeah. I think one of the things I learned from my dad is how important a father-son relationship is, and not just father-son, but father, you know, it could be father-daughter. Just how important, going back to kind of being present. You know, I remember him, like I said, playing with me all the time as a kid, and then getting older, it got a little bit harder for him because I started getting stronger and faster, and he's trying to keep up with me. I remember razors were really big. The Razor scooters were really big back in the day, and I was probably like 12 or something like that. And my dad thought, no, I wasn't that cool. Mine wasn't even a real razor. It was like an off-brand, okay? But I was super excited about it.
It works.
And yeah, I remember my dad thought he can do it, and I remember telling my dad, you know, I don't think you should ride this thing. And he's like, no, I can do it. I got it. He gets on it. He goes a couple feet, and he hits a big crack in the sidewalk and takes a tumble, hurts his arm. My mom has to bathe him. He can't eat by himself. And he didn't break it, but it was just badly injured. I just remember that. But I'll never forget it. So I think it's there, you know, Pastor Josh and Elizabeth have been talking about taking time to spend with your kids. And I'm not, you know, I'm a new dad, so I have new experiences, but I've been a teacher for a long time in high school, so I've seen lots of adolescents without fathers and absent fathers, and see how that affects them. And so it's just really, really important to build, if you have kids, build that now, because, you know, when they get older, teenagers, what do they say when you ask them, how was your day? Good. Fine. What'd you do today? Nothing. Right? And that's normal. But
until it hits about 10 o'clock at night, and you want to go to sleep, and then they will be happy to talk.
Yep.
And then that's the time to listen.
That's awesome.
Right? So, yeah, but you're exactly right.
If you build that relationship with them, you'll be able to do things like that, which is awesome. You know, and I don't think it stops there. When I became an adult, 18, 20, I remember starting to stay out late with friends, you know, not getting into trouble or anything, but, you know, I have a car now. I can stay out with my friends, and my dad wouldn't bother me, but I remember coming home would be maybe 12, 1 o'clock would be the latest I would come home. He's still awake after a long day at work, and he'd come up to me, give me a hug, and then he'd go to bed. He would never go to sleep, didn't matter how late I was, just to make sure I was safe. And I know it's to smell, make sure I don't have too much cologne on, and, you know, make sure I'm not getting into trouble. And so I can tell you that definitely deterred me from trying to do anything that I wasn't supposed to do. And so I love my dad for that.
So good. I haven't talked too much about this, but part of, I'm not going to say culture in general, but I think part of the enemy's attack has been to try to remove fathers as quickly as possible from families. And there's amazing moms who are raising kids, right? But I think God's intent is it's that family of a dad and a mom together raising their family, dad and a mom, despite what culture says. I think that's God's intended plan. Now I get it; that's not always how it plays out. But if you follow the American culture, especially from the time of TV, you've watched how dads were kind of elevated to the role of, wise people who their kids trusted, listened to, all the way to now where it's like dads are kind of a joke in TV. It's on purpose, it's on purpose. It's trying, I think part of the reason why I love these guys is you are good dads. And you guys you're doing it the right way. You're raising your children, the right way. You're being that example.
Can you tell my kids that?
Give me their numbers. So, yeah, you're good dad. Just so there's the presence which you've talked about. When kids are young, playtime. That is that connection time, playtime. 8 to 10 minutes of playtime, even if it means, and you'll get at this point, Jed's gonna be riding on a scooter one day and you'll be like, I could do that. And you remember your story. I could go off of this. So, but there's the value of dads, with the kids, first of all to the spouse, but then with the kids it can't be underestimated. And so those examples that you've been sharing are so true. Does anybody have another point they want to share? Nugget? Yeah, let's do it.
It's okay to show emotions. In my culture growing up, if you cried, what is wrong with you, boy? Why are you crying? But it's okay to cry, especially to nurture your kids, show emotions. It's okay. I'm here for you. If something's wrong, you can lean on me. And so that's how it should be growing up. My dad, I don't think I ever saw my dad cry, to be honest, but it was almost like, what you crying for? But as I grew older and we're seeing people around me that were very father figures to me, it's okay to show emotion because stuff does happen. And so when your kids look at you, what's wrong, Dad? What's wrong? So you talk to them, hey, it's okay, this happened, such happened, but as you grow older, you will understand it. As my grandma would say, by and by. You will see it more clear when you go through your experience to do life, and it's okay. Even with your kids, it's okay to show emotion to your kids. You always don't have to set the rule down. Sometimes I let my wife be the bad person. But it's okay. When my girls come around me, I'm more like, I have a picture of me with a bandana on. I think it's somebody's scarf. But it's okay to be cool. It's okay to play with your kids, to show emotions. And so that's stuff they don't remember. As for me, I have vague remembrance with my dad to even show emotions. Hey, Dad. So one thing I can say as a black male, it's okay to show emotions.
That's a good one. So I think there's been generations where the emotions weren't allowed, and so I think, I'm not a psychologist, but then it starts to get suppressed, and then when you suppress it, you don't really deal with it. So, that said, we also all need to be in control of our emotions, is the balance on that. So, again, I'm going to go to a baseball story. So part of how we were taught as playing on baseball was to have a stone face, which on the field that meant don't show the emotion. It's actually, it's opposite, but it's not. It was don't show the emotion because then the other team might know if they're getting to you, right? Now with your family, you need to be able to show the emotion because you need to show that life is not always flowers and roses and beautiful. Sometimes it's hard, it's painful, and it's okay to show that side of it as well. We in general, we get insulated from a lot in our culture. We get insulated from a lot, so we don't. Those emotions don't always. We don't always allow them to be shown how they should. So. But yeah, it's a good thing. I mean, my guess is most of my kids can ask me at some point, like, Dad, why are you crying? It's like, you know, there's things that can kind of, you know, as I get older, they move you, and it's like you just realize how precious life is. So, yeah. So my brother, you know, I'm going to send him this. My brother will cry almost at the drop of a hat. He shows his emotion. So no, but yeah, it's okay to do that. So it's really, really a good one. So it's how to healthily handle your emotions. How to handle your emotions in a healthy manner. How about that? So yeah, it's powerful. Kevin, do you have another nugget, or Idon? I know. I went past the 3 that I initially asked you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. My dad, I would say, is a little bit more of a feeler or emotional. He takes things personally, you know. And so I remember growing up as a kid, if I misbehaved or did something, sometimes my dad would, you know, get me in trouble, and I'd have to go to my room or something, and he'd get very angry at me, raise his voice and stuff like that. And me not knowing how stressful of a job that he had, and, you know, not thinking about how much sleep he's not getting. But my dad would always tell me that he was sorry if he knew that he overreacted, you know, to something. After he'd always tell me, hey, sorry, I overreacted. I shouldn't have talked to you like that. And I think that really went a long way with me, and just teaching me to own up to my mistakes and own up when I'm wrong. So I think that that's very valuable.
Yeah, that's 100%. I sometimes, I mean, you got to be honest, sometimes pride gets in the way. So admitting to your wrong, especially to your children, you know, you almost see them as like, you know, they're subordinate, so to speak. So, and you're supposed to set this example. So it's very humbling when you have to apologize to your children, you know. But it's still a work in progress, I'll be honest. But, you know, I acknowledge it, I see it, and sometimes there are times where I've had to tell Maria, you know, or sometimes she'll tell me, you know, you kind of blew it there. I'm like, okay, I'll go. I got to go up there, and I got to right the wrong. So that it's humbling, and you'll see. But you know what? It's worth it.
By the way, tell everybody how old your kids are.
26, 21, and just turned 18. All boys.
So they're out of the house, or close to out of the house. You're
One's
at
out
that
of the
stage.
house. One is almost out, and the other one is clawing to get out. So I mean, which is fine.
So
you
and
know.
now your whole dynamic, you're always going to be dad, but your whole dynamic with them is completely changed. You're in a different season. Whereas
Correct.
Idon has Jed, who's coming up on 1 in like 2.5 weeks, pretty soon. So, and then Cedric, what about you? I should have asked you guys when we started. How old are the kiddos?
Oh boy, that's a long list. So we have 4, we have 9. One is about to be 10 here in a couple of days, and then we have a 13-year-old. Where is he at? He always disappearing. Then we have a 16-year-old, and I pray every day, Lord, give me strength with this 16-year-old girl. Then I have a 19-year-old, and then a 20-year-old son. Which he's very good. The 19-year-old girl, I'm still trying to mold and shape, and still pray for the 16-year-old. But yes.
So yeah, and then mine are Asher's our oldest, 15, and then we have Arabella who's 12, and then Amos is 9, and then twin 5-year-old. So just that I should have asked that at the beginning, but yeah. So you could see we're just getting going, in the thick of it. Still, you're never at the end, but you've went through it, and now you're gonna head into a season at some point where you'll get to experience the next generation. So
Right.
at the right time, so you'll get that next. So
See, now I can say, you know what? You're an adult.
yeah,
You can you can do that on your own. If I want to pull that card.
if you want.
But
Yeah. Does anybody have any closing thoughts? Any last point you want to share with everybody?
I'm going to share my Bible verse.
Yeah, let's do that.
So I'm going to read this word for word. My favorite Bible verse is Romans 3:24, being justified freely by the grace through the redemption that is in Christ, knowing that I'm not always going to make the right choices in life. God's grace and mercy surrounds me. The same as my father, same as me, should I be to my children, I will be the same. I know they will not always make the right choices, but I should show them grace and mercy, even when I must run. Even when sometimes Jacobs don't take out the trash, I have to show him grace and mercy because I don't always do things right. So I think with that being said, God gives us grace and mercy. We should do the same for our children because they're going to make mistakes. We make mistakes. So it's really, sometimes it could be a growing pain to get there. But we must show grace and mercy just like God shows us.
Do you want to share your favorite Bible verse, or do you have a closing thought?
Sure. Read it out. All right, my favorite Bible verse is Daniel 3:17 through 18. It's the story with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And I know it's kind of random a little bit, but yeah, it's been my favorite for a while. King Nebuchadnezzar is going to throw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the furnace for not bowing down to his idols. And they basically just say that their God is able to save them, and even if he doesn't, they're not going to bow down anyways. And what I love about that is it's something I hold on to when things, we've had, Megan and I in our journeys have had different struggles, health and different things come up, and that's kind of a verse I hold on to, that just knowing that my God is able and he's willing to heal and save, but even if he doesn't, it doesn't change anything. He's sovereign, and I'm going to worship him anyways. So.
One verse, that's hard. There's a lot in there. I guess today, probably my favorite one is the first one in the Bible. Honestly, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and I think if you can grasp and hold on to that, the whole rest of it's going to make sense. I say if you can believe that and hold on to it, none of the rest of the Bible is going to give you any problems. And actually, on the flip side of that, I guess I'll say second favorite is probably the last verse of the entire Bible, 22:20. Yeah, where behold, I come quickly, and that's that promise, and that's something that I hold on to, like in a big way.
So good. I like that question, and I'll wrap up here, but I like asking that question because then you get to see that impacts how you are, who you are, and how you approach all of your relationships. So for me, it's fun to hear and hear how the Lord ministers to you through His Word. So you guys, I appreciate you men so much. One random last tip, which I think we've mentioned this, but one of the best things that we can do as husbands for our kid, or as fathers for our kids, is to be amazing husbands. So continue to be amazing husbands as you guys are. It's one of the best things we can do to show our kids and create that security for them. So appreciate you men so much. You can stay up here. I'm gonna wrap up here today. I just, there's a lot in here, and I believe that if you're listening, I'm sure you grabbed some things, some nuggets, some things that you can and should have written down, and you can hold with you, and you can take with you, whatever situation you're in. Obviously, with kind of men and just knowledge we've received from our dads, but I know that moms, you can take this, you can apply it to your life. But the most important reason why we're here, all of these men are up here, is because of their walk with the Lord. And one of the things that we do just about every week that we're here at the church is we like to give people an opportunity to enter into a right relationship with the Lord. Let me take one step back. I'm not sure what situation you were raised in, but I want to tell you that God is the perfect Father. So even if you faced situations where you were in dysfunctional, broken households. God is the perfect Father, and He cares for you, and He can bring healing and restoration to you. Whether that was years ago or whether you might be in the midst of it right now, I want you to know that God is the perfect Heavenly Father. He forgives, He redeems, He restores. And I want you to know that. So no matter what you faced, what you're facing, He is there with you. The main thing we need to do, though, is to open up our hearts to Him and enter into relationship with Him. We call this walking with the Lord. Romans talks about it, that if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised Him from the dead, you will be saved. You'll have that salvation. So even in the midst of today, as we're sharing different knowledge that we've learned from our dads here today, I want to make the invitation out to all of you who are here. Are you walking with the Lord? And would you, if you're not, would you like to be walking with Him? Would you like to make that decision for Him today? And what I want to do right now is give you the privacy of this moment. So I'm going to ask everybody just to bow your heads and to close your eyes. And even as I was sharing and mentioned about that if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, which is not a hard thing to do, but then if you believe in your heart that God raised Him from the dead, what you're saying is that you're acknowledging that the work that Jesus did on the cross paid the price. He went into the tomb, but God raised Him from the dead and conquered death and sin. He defeated it at that point. And that has allowed us to enter into that life that we need, that we can only have when we walk with the Lord, when we're in relationship with the Lord. If you're in here today and you're not walking with the Lord and you want to be in a right relationship with the Lord, I want to ask you right now, just raise your hand and open your eyes and look at me so I can be in an agreement with you here today. So if you're not walking with the Lord or you want to come back to Him in your relationship with Him this morning, go ahead and raise your hand and look at me here this morning. Father, I thank you for the men and women, young and older, who are in here today. I thank you that you are with them, you're guarding them, you're guiding them in every single way. God, I thank you for the dads who are in here, the fathers. Lord, may today, may they be celebrated, may they be encouraged in heart, Lord, and may they continue to make a lasting imprint into the lives of their children. Lord, may they just continue to direct them into their walk with you, Lord. Lord, we pray for health and strength in your Son's name right now. And everybody says, Amen.